I'll watch my presentation again after I've finished it. So.
Without sound.
Without sound. Oh, it should be picking up sound. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, so IE11. I was expecting a little bit of a hostile crowd. So, as Craig said, I'm Aaron. That's my actual Twitter handle. That's my blog. I work for Redify, and I'm an IE MVP and an IE user agent. We're just community evangelists with a Microsoft flavor. Basically, working with the team that's behind things such as that browser you love to hate. That's one of the things that we're involved with. So I'm excited. Everyone else excited? We're talking IE11. We're actually talking that. So that's my user agent string for IE11. But what's really interesting, oh, does this thing have a laser? It does. There is no MSIE part to it. This was actually a big controversy when the first build started to leak out, that there was no MSIE section of the IE11 user agent. You also notice on the end it's got light gecko. This is like, adding a light gecko is not really that strange. I mean, WebKit identifies itself as light gecko. I'm pretty sure Opera did as well until it became Google Chrome with a circle logo that's all red instead of multicolored. But yeah, the main thing here is that it's no longer visibly identifying itself as IE, and one of the main reasons they did that was to break all the people that are making false assumptions about the browser based off of the user agent string, and also basically doing a big fuck you, because user agent strings don't mean shit anymore. And this is really not very useful to tell you anything about the browser. And sure, you can work out that I got touch support. That's kind of the only thing that will change between this is the Metro version and the desktop version. Touch support is slightly different, identified between the Metro and the desktop. So, ready to rock? Because I am. So, what's new? WebGL's new.
Yeah.
Okay, someone's excited. Awesome. There's some new development tools. We'll have a look at them in a little bit. It's got Speedy 3 support. So anyone that's like kind of a protocol nerd will be able to tell you a whole lot more about why Speedy 3 is cool than I can. I can tell you that apparently it's cool. It's not, there's no HTTP 2 support, it's just Speedy 3 is what they've implemented. They've continued on the progress of implementing more CSS3 features, or are they now CSS4 features? I'm not really sure, but there's a bunch of new CSS stuff that's come. They've also improved the touch support in line with the recent specification changes. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. They've added some stuff for ES6. And there's a bunch more stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I've had it explained to me and I didn't really understand it because it was about how the browser deals with image colors and it optimizes that in a better way so images are rendered a whole lot faster. I'm like, cool story, bro. But there was someone at Microsoft really excited about that, I can tell you now. So, WebGL. It's probably a lot of people that are just like, yeah, it's about damn time. Microsoft had a long track record of holding out on WebGL. People thought that maybe it was going to come with IE10 and it didn't, and Microsoft kept saying, well, we're not satisfied with the security model that's in place with WebGL, that you could potentially hijack the GPU and do nefarious things on someone's machine. But now, as of IE11, we do have WebGL support built in. So it will default to DirectX 11 running on your graphics card. But it does have some software fallbacks. I couldn't find exactly what triggered those, and no one from the IE team got back to me early enough to get them into my slides. But ultimately, it should just kind of be on in any browser, so any device that's running IE11. It will be on by default as well, so it's not going to be like something that is behind some kind of a flag that you've got to turn on deep within inside of some Windows registry setting. It will just any browser like with Chrome and Opera, I suppose Opera now, Firefox, it's just going to be there available. Keep in mind that what I'm talking about is still preview versions of stuff, so there is a lot of WebGL demos that won't work, and any of those, shoot them to me because I'll pass them straight to the IE team. They really want to find out what doesn't work in their current implementation of WebGL. It uses the same experimental WebGL thing off Canvas that all the other browsers are using. So it's not like you've got some brand new syntax that Microsoft has said, hey, this is how we're doing WebGL, we think it's going to be so much better. They're actually doing exactly the same way as the other browsers have already done and got kind of the tried and tested methods. So just kind of to say that I'm not bullshitting, so if I go back to my start slide, oh, that didn't work. Dev.js. So that is, it was a 3JS demo that Mr. Doob did. I think it's about 12 months old now or something, and yeah, it's the IE logo just spinning in 3D, written in 3JS. So when Microsoft announced that they had WebGL support, they did it at their build conference, which was back in June. All their demos, they wrote on top of 3JS. So if we wanted to run something like the CubeSlam demo, how many people have seen CubeSlam? Wow. That was a whole lot less than I was expecting. Well, this makes my demo actually sort of interesting. Play a bear. It's just Pong, guys. It's not anything creepy. Whee! So, and this is running at the kind of speeds that you'd want. Like, it's not some really shitty half-assed implementation of WebGL or anything that Microsoft put out. It is running quite well. This is running on my Core i7 or whatever this machine is. Yeah. I don't know. I could have played against someone else if I had time to set up a demo properly, but nah, didn't do that one. There was another cool demo I found. Yeah. Well, let's see if we've got audio, because then everyone's going to have the sound. Oh, my laptop. Too bad. Yes, there we go, 9cat, because all demos are complete as soon as you've got 9cat. This is another cool demo that I think is 18 months old now. It was to launch a music video by this artist that was done in I'm not sure if it's done in 3JS or it's just raw WebGL. Someone might be able to answer that question. But it's got web audio running under the hood. If I had more audio than just my inbuilt laptop speakers, it'd be a whole lot cooler. But this thing just kind of flying through. We've got all the shader support and stuff like that. You know, the kind of things that you do expect from a WebGL implementation are there, are working, and anything that doesn't work, the IE team really wants to hear about so that they can try and address it, if not before the final release, but at least in patch releases going forward. Another thing that I forgot to put into my what's interesting about the WebGL support is this is also available if you're doing HTML5 Windows 8 applications. So if you're building an application to go through the Windows 8 store, that's targeting Windows 8.1 with IE11, you're going to have WebGL support, which means that you can actually build games that can be installed through the store that are just written in HTML5 and JavaScript. And I'm sure Vaughn's got some opinions on whether or not that's actually realistic. We can all hear about that next. So, onto the dev tools. If anyone has used the IE dev tools, you'll probably be feeling like this. Yes, Brendan was complaining to me on Skype today about just how bad the IE dev tools are. Good news, everybody! They don't suck as much. One of the qualifiers to the as much is this is a preview build, so they are buggy. So I do have them crash every now and then, and that sucks, simply put. There's some features that Chrome has taught me to like that are either implemented differently or just aren't there at the moment. But the fact is that they aren't the dev tools that we've been used to. So they actually did a ground-up rewrite from the last version to this version. They actually took a lot of the stuff that was being implemented in Visual Studio and put that straight into the browser. So if the handful of .NET developers that are here will know Visual Studio, that it's actually got a really good debugging experience and a pretty decent editor, and that stuff is what they've kind of put into the browser tools. You no longer need to launch into a new window that is kind of like modal on top of IE when you're debugging your JavaScript. As someone that does use Windows and had debugged JavaScript in Internet Explorer, this was the most retarded thing to deal with. That every time you set a breakpoint, you then had to reload the page and turn on breakpoints. Yeah, because that was a great way to remember state. They've actually dropped the browser mode toggling. So IE had the ability to toggle browser mode and document mode to change the rendering engine, and the reason they dropped browser mode is because people were kind of abusing what that meant and misunderstanding what that meant. It wasn't so much the way the rendering engine was going to work, which is what document mode was all about. So that's what your meta tag to specify IE edge that controls the browser mode, the document mode. Then browser mode was something else entirely, and you can end up, if you set the appropriate meta tags and things in the dev tools, you can be debugging like an IE9 rendering engine on top of a document mode from IE7 quirks, which was just horrible. And then people would wonder why their site didn't work. So it's only the rendering engine that you can change backwards in the dev tools now. They have a live DOM inspector. Most people are probably like, what do you mean it wasn't live? You actually had to click a refresh button if the DOM changed in the old IE dev tools. Yeah, that wasn't tedious. They've added stuff to the console object, similar to what Chrome has been doing in recent years. So if you console log a DOM element, it will actually appear as a DOM element that you hover and it will appear in with the shadowing and the outlining and all that kind of stuff. They've got things like the console timer, so you can set up timers on the console or from your code to then execute, so you can do kind of inline profiling and stuff like that. And they kind of look like this. Wow. It's interesting when you get some white on the screen instead of just black. So they look a whole lot more metro. Yeah. Flat icons. I'm not sure how much people are actually interested in, other than seeing that they don't look like the shitty old dev tools that we used to have. The debugger has got a lot of inheritance of what they've done for Visual Studio in recent years. So you've got things like conditional breakpoints, trace points, and stuff like that, which can be really good. Trace points are a really powerful debugging concept. I'm not familiar enough with Eclipse or Xcode or anything like that to know if there's a comparison, but they're really good for conditionally turning on breakpoints and stuff like that with inside of your code. Your network inspectors and all those kind of things. Profiling tools for your UI, memory, and stuff like that. And then under the emulation, so here's where we can start doing some of the stuff. Like this is actually where they're now hiding away the document, the document mode instead of the browser mode. So it's hidden under here, inbuilt user agent strings and stuff like that. We've also got the ability to toggle orientation, stuff like that, which will then trigger off into the orientation events on the device, device being this machine. That makes it easy to test things for mobile devices, with Windows Phone, iPhone, etc. We can simulate GPS location, so if you don't have GPS connectivity from your machine, you can simulate that and actually do your app testing still, which again is, I think, a fairly useful feature of any dev tools to have. So I'm happy about that. I don't know, how many people are actually excited by the fact that the dev tools no longer look like something that was released for IE5? Okay, so there's ES6 support, at least sort of. There's ES6 support. Like all the browsers, it's only kind of there. They've only implemented some of the features. So this is the feature list that I know of that they've implemented. So Len const, which are fairly trivial features. Len being particularly useful, const, personally I see less use for that. Some of the new types for map and weak map. They've also implemented $_proto, which isn't in the standard as far as I'm aware. That has actually been implemented to bring them in line with the other JavaScript engines. That it just means that it's A, harder to detect IE as a different browser, and B, just makes it easier to write code that you don't have to detect IE as a different browser for. I also believe they're the first browser to implement the new internationalization API. I'm not much of a language person, but this is supposed to be really useful if you're trying to do multilingual web applications. I'm not sure it's technically part of ES6, but I think it's just something that they're kind of pushing to get included as a larger extension to ES itself. So you'll notice that there's people are probably going to say, well, where's things like generators or fat arrows or any of those other features? I think what Microsoft is doing, and it seems logical, that they're only implementing the features that are fairly grounded, and people don't update IE anywhere near as rapidly as they update any of the other browsers. So you don't want a half-assed implementation of generators that we're going to be stuck with for the next 10 years. The fact that they're only implementing the stuff that doesn't seem to be, it seems to be pretty solid. I know that Firefox shipped a version of generators and the generators changed. That meant that all the generators code was no longer working, and we then had to deal with that change. So I prefer that they don't implement something that then has to be, well, dealt with the fact that it doesn't work the way it's meant to work. So some of the DOM and CSS changes. They've added the pseudo selector for hidden. Apparently that was missing, and apparently that was the thing. I didn't know that. I haven't obviously written enough CSS for a while. Full screen API, yeah, that's kind of useful, I guess. It makes writing slide decks in HTML even easier. Yeah. Makes watching YouTube videos even easier. Because that's cool. Device orientation and screen orientation, those events now fire with inside of IE. While that's semi-useful in IE11 on desktop, on tablet devices, that's obviously going to be more useful. And I would expect that we're going to see IE11 at some point on Windows Phone. It hasn't been announced yet. It was strange that they announced a new version of the Windows Phone operating system, but they didn't announce that IE11 was coming in it, so it means it's probably not coming anytime soon. But it'll be there at some point, and at least that we already can preemptively detect that what features are going to be there based on the fact that they're coming into the desktop version. Web crypto is an interesting one. It's something that they announced at the Build conference. It's a whole lot of fanfare, and the fact that they've been working with Netflix and they were now doing DRM protected videos using HTML5 video being streamed over from Netflix, and then they went on to say that we've implemented our own proprietary API to do this. So whoever wrote that speech didn't think too well about what they were saying, because what they actually meant was, and they've recounted in blog posts, is they've implemented web crypto as is standardized, but they implemented their own proprietary API to then do the web crypto that is exposed. So they've implemented web crypto the way that it says it works. They're just not telling anyone how they've done that, because that kind of defeats part of cryptography. You go, hey, here's how my crypto works. It kind of makes it difficult. But yeah, this has been running with Netflix, which is really awesome for us here in Australia. Yeah, they've also updated the pointer events. I did say let's try and get someone that knows anything about pointer events, but I don't think anyone does to come down and speak tonight. But pointer events are actually really cool. They're Microsoft's take on the way we should do touch input. So I've got a touchscreen device here that I can press on and things fly around. Do that way, and then sorry. So I can touch multiple points, We've also got pen inputs, and that will then detect as well as, oh no, it doesn't detect his finger because that part becomes a mouse. Whoops, didn't show that demo particularly well. But this is done not using the same APIs that, or not same event stack as appears on things like the iPhone. And that's because partially that the touch events are very limited to only being fingers or anything you're going to poke a screen with. I was thinking feet. But it doesn't take into account things like pen inputs, which Windows 8 devices are very commonly coming with these days. So they created a higher level event stack that is somewhat more agnostic to what is actually interacting with the screen. It could be a keyboard, it could be a pen, it could be physical pressing on the screen with meat bits. It does. And this is actually something that they then submitted to W3C. This has gone through a couple of rounds of feedback from them, and last I heard it was waiting for other browser implementations. Patch got submitted for WebKit, which was being reviewed, and then Google decided to stop using WebKit. They've said that they're working with the Blink team to submit a patch to Blink that will support pointer events. There's a patch out for Firefox that will do pointer events. And as someone that's read the idea behind it and played around with it, it actually makes a lot more sense than just touch, because it means that you don't have to try and differentiate between someone clicking and someone using a finger to interact with the screen. So in IE11, there's some updates based off of the feedback that they got by going through the W3C standardization process, which I think is, again, a very good move that they did just go, well, stuff it, we've implemented it this way and we don't care what anyone else's feedback. No, well, we've actually got some feedback, we're implementing it and doing it the way that people want it done. So this comes to the question of availability. When are you going to be able to use it? Currently, you can use it on the Windows 8.1 preview, which is what I'm running on my devices, and that's the preview version that I've got at the moment. Windows 8.1 comes out on the 18th of the 10th this year, so it's a little over 2 months, sorry, a little under 2 months away. Yes, math checks out. It will be coming to Windows 7. The preview build that is available for Windows 8.1 is also available on Windows 7. It is not coming to Windows 8. It's because the expectation is that Windows 8.1 is a direct upgrade from Windows 8. You won't be hanging around on Windows 8 once Windows 8.1 comes out. It's kind of the similar story with Safari and OS X. If you don't want to upgrade, fine, that's cool. You still have a working Safari, it's just the older version. You upgrade to the newer operating system, you give us more money, and you will get the new shinies. But what about people that are running OS X or Linux machines? There's a website that is run by the IE team called modern.ie, and this you can actually get. I should have linked directly to it. Oops, not that one. Test across browser, sorry. You can actually download a virtual machine for whatever operating system. Runs, so they target VirtualBox, VMware, and Parallels.
IE11 up there.
Yes. So the VMs you can get are for the, wait, so let me select, I want to type Mac, VirtualBox. So this is the list of browsers, and next time someone says, oh, well, I've got a Mac, I can't test on IE9, yeah, well, here you go. Do you want IE9 running on Windows 7? I think that's the only operating system it came out for. There you go. It's a virtual machine that you can get for free from Microsoft that's time locked, so you don't just have a free copy of Windows. It's kind of silly.
Can you re-download it then?
Yeah, you can. So every time, so there's a time lock, so they obviously expire at some point. So then the IE team uploads a brand new VM, so you would have to re-download. I've seen, I think there's a shell script that automates the process of downloading all the VMs. So it just goes and has all the curl URLs in there. And yes, you can get IE11 for both Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 from here. Also, if you're using something like Browser Stack, they have Windows 8.1 VMs, I believe it is, and you can use IE11 on that. So there's less excuse to say, oh, well, no, I've got no access to this. Okay, well, I'm done.
Still off the dark. Do you have any questions out there? We have lots of questions out there. We'll start with Craig in the front.
We're talking about the pointer events. How many touches can it simultaneously detect?
The last time I asked the IE team, they said they tested it on 20-something points, and that was because they actually couldn't find a screen that would allow more inputs than that simultaneously. I think it actually comes down to the limitation of the device being able to funnel through. Yeah. If the device can support more, then they'll support more. They also couldn't find someone with more than 20 fingers.
Tasmania.
Yeah, I was going to say, damn it! Damn it!
One more question.
So I've used modern IE before, and it was awesome for downloading the download, like another time later. But for a proper job, like, what is the coolest feature, apart from flexible events, in the new version of IE that I'm going to
The MS Grid layout system. So the grid layout has actually been proposed as a W3C standard. It's a way of making somewhat flexible UIs. It was originally implemented for the purpose of doing Windows Store applications. If anyone's done SAML development, it's got a lot of similarities to that. It allows you to specify whereabouts on a grid layout you want something, rather than having to float and then deal with a browser resize, and then the fact that your floats are now all incompatible with where they previously were. That would be what I would say is the coolest feature.
Do we have any more questions or any more trolling?
I even prepared answers for things I was expecting people to troll me on.
Have you got a question? You can try yourself in.
Troll yourself.
I was expecting this one to be here, but then the guy that I expected to ask this question isn't here. Well, they're not, because they don't believe WebRTC
Exists.
Well, the current standard that is being proposed goes far enough. So they've proposed an alternative that goes further, and I'm definitely not the person that can answer why that's good or bad, and the person that isn't here.
More? There we go.
Sorry. No, you can't get access to DirectX features through JavaScript. Rather than implementing OpenGL in the browser, which is then on top of DirectX or sitting parallel to DirectX, they funnel all the calls that would be coming through WebGL straight through to DirectX underneath. And that doesn't sound like a dangerous idea. There's no announcement of when we're going to get user media. That actually made a whole lot of the demos I wanted to do with WebGL pointless. I wanted to use the opening credits from Web Directions South last year, but that users get user media. It's a smaller part. They could implement that. They've already got all the hooks to expose the camera to the in JavaScript that's written for Windows 8. I already said that one. Thank you.
We'll thank Aaron, please. Stand up. What's your legs, have a beverage, meet a new person, shake their hand, don't be creepy. See you in 10 minutes.
Was that directed at me? Come on, man.
Well, then I'm not going to.